Hi, I'm Florence, and here's some foot focus things that I do for my surfing.
John, I want to show you this clip, and I would really like you to talk through what's happening and the importance of the feet.
Yeah, I think this clip is really cool because it kind of shows a lot of things that I don't even think about when I'm on the wave. And it's funny when I look back at clips like this, you really see how much you use your feet and whether you're grabbing with your toes to pull the board back. But in reality, when it's happening, I'm not thinking about it happening. I'm just doing what I can to manage the board and where it's going. You can see how the front foot's really planted here. And you're essentially just you're grabbing with your toes, like trying to hold the board back to you. But it really shows you how much you use your feet when you're surfing. Just seeing some of the other clips, when we've shot stuff of our feet, like just in getting barreled, how much your foot rolls and moves around with your toes. It's something that I just never really realized how much you end up doing that. Your toes are literally it's like a hand grabbing and clawing its way up the board. And so it's pretty cool to see that, and it makes you realize how much you need your feet. Feet are important in surfing because it's what attaches you to your board, and it's what you're standing on. It's your balance point. It's where you're putting the pressure into the board, where you're moving, kind of the energy that you're putting into the board. So feet are essential. Foot positioning on the board it's a little bit of a technique thing, but it's also a little bit of a style thing. It's kind of different to everyone. Some people will have a really wide boxy stance, which can be really good for airs. It can be really good for speed and smaller waves. It allows you to rotate and land and be really straight back to your board. I think that a slightly narrow stance, having your front foot pulled back a little bit, is maybe better for carves and turns. And I think it kind of puts the power and the energy back here more. You're almost getting rid of all the pressure up here, and everything is comes to this back third of the board. And so I think a narrower stance allows you to kind of pivot. It allows you to do a couple more things with turns, especially really high speed turns. In a frontside barrel, a lot of the times your front foot will be here and your back foot will actually come up to pretty far up the board up to here. So you're in this pretty narrow stance on a frontside barrel. And for the barrel, it's it allows you just to, because you're straight lining and you're not doing so many turns, it allows you to kind of get a little more speed and drive out of the board. So for me, when I pump, and especially small waves or sometimes bigger waves too, and there's not a lot of energy, I'll bring that back foot up here to try to generate more speed. But then it gets really hard to turn. Sometimes I'll come out of a barrel frontside and I'll have my front foot and my back foot, everything's shifted pretty far up the board up here. So you'll come out, and unless you shift back, it's really hard to turn the board. And so I think that just plays into that. Turns is really good to be back and a little bit narrower. Barrels, you're always shifting further up the board. So the increasing speed, essentially, you just want everything to be a little bit more forward. You want to be getting that drive of the pump off the middle of the board up here. And it's I think about when you're pumping and you're trying to get speed going, a lot of the drive comes from your front leg. And it's that front foot kind of push and grab to me. So you're essentially using your board and you're pushing it down with your front foot, and everything's pushing off that. And then when you want to drive through a turn and have tons of drive and hold through turns, everything's shifted back a tiny bit and kind of centered over this part of the board more. I really believe that a big part of it is obviously the fins, but also this back edge of the board here. The back edge has a hard edge here, and then it rounds out as it comes further forward. But when you use this hard edge properly and a thinner tail, you can pretty much hold at any speed that you're going. Foot pressure it depends if you're frontside or backside, but frontside is usually your front foot using your toes a bit more and really scooping, pushing as you're pumping down the line. Backside is same thing, using your front leg again, but using your heel kind of more in that, and you're kind of doing this, and it's grabbing and you're trying to get the board pushed forward. I mean, having strong feet is super essential to power in a wave. When you're surfing a big wave and you're moving that fast over the top of the water feels like it gets harder and harder, so it gets harder to press the board down. When you can have that power to be able to press the board down, and I feel like it's all in your big toe, really. For me, it's like you're pressing that big toe right here into the board, and you're just pushing everything you've got off that wave. You're going 35 miles an hour on a wave, pushing everything you got on this little tiny rail. You need to be able to hold it. You guys know what a shakti mat is? Like, yeah. So I use a shakti mat a lot. Pretty much a mat with a bunch of spikes in it. And most people look at it and go, that's horrific. And they'll stand on it and they'll go, this feels horrific. But it's really good, I promise. It's kind of like one of the first things I do for my warm-up is that I get on the shakti mat and I'll stand there and kind of get your feet spread nice and wide. And it's kind of this just like first thing in the morning, you kind of like lean forward, lean back, right, left, and you kind of get that whole feeling for your whole movement. And then I kind of go into some movements from there, some like real slow controlled squats and things like that. It's kind of how I start my days with my feet. I think it just gets your body aware of where your feet are, where everything's moving, where the pressures are going, getting your feet awake, getting your toes awake. That's really all it is like waking your body up and the connection of your head to your feet and knowing where everything is. I think being barefoot is so important. I think your feet want to be on the ground and it doesn't want to be on like even like standing on flat cement isn't good, I don't think. And it's like when you're on this uneven ground and your feet can feel all that sensory like input. And I think that's when your mind feels the best and your body feels the best. Flexibility, I think, is important because it's like where your chain of movement starts, essentially. So if something can't move there, then it's going to go to the next thing in the chain, which could be your knee, it could be your hamstring, it could be something else that doesn't quite want to move in that direction. So I think having the most foot flexibility that you can allows like that part of the body to move as it should, and then allows the next part of the body to move as it should, and so on. I think that for me, like with the knee injuries, that lack of foot flexibility could have been part of the injuries too. And you come down from a maneuver and you're like compressing into your ankle, and then that's a stopping point. So then it just goes to the next thing up the chain. I do like this pre kind of surf warm up with my feet, and it's kind of like starting with your fingers between your toes, and you kind of like, it's like bending back, bending down a couple times, and then grabbing your heel with the other hand, and then you're like kind of twisting and wringing your foot out, and then bringing your hand up to the middle of the foot, twisting and wringing your foot out again. And it's kind of just this like trying to get all the bones and everything moving in my foot. That's like part of my warm up to go surf in the morning if I know I'm gonna have a big day or I'm competing or something. Use a deck pad. I would say get a shakti mat and get your foot moving before you surf. Fingers and toes, bending it back, and just kind of like really getting everything moving. I feel like for me, it's all the little things that add up. One thing in particular might not make the biggest difference. Make sure you're aware of it in your warm-up of using your feet, starting with your feet. Great surfing starts with the feet because that's the part that connects you to your board.